Welcome. Thank you for coming today. My name is Michael Powers. I'm the president of the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association. And standing behind me are many of the members that work in the sister facilities here of Mid-State and Marcy, along with the executive board for NYSCOBA. We've called this press conference today to discuss some issues that we need and feel that are imperative to share with the public, and not only the public but our legislators. We're fortunate to have Assemblyman Gary Finch with us today, who serves on the Assembly Committee for Corrections. He's been a long-time committee member for that, and we're thankful for having him here with us today. One of the issues we want to stress today, more or less, is the assaults that occur inside these facilities behind our fences. These assaults are rampant. They have increased 11% since last year and 25% from 2010. And despite repeatedly relaying our concerns about inmate attacks on staff to DOCCS leadership, the number of assaults are on pace to go over 700 by the end of this year. That's an 11% increase from last year. The assaults on staff have increased 24% since 2010, even as the inmate populations have decreased by 3,000. DOCCS statistics show zero number of serious assaults on staff and less than 1% moderate assaults from 2010 to 2013. Yet in the past year alone, we have had officers stabbed, hospitalized with concussions, broken bones, and compound fractures. Many of these members will never return to work to provide the service of protection of public safety. The department simply cannot continue to downplay the injuries our members are sustaining. Contraband continually finds its way into our facilities. Drugs are an ever-increasing problem amongst inmates. The introduction of heroin and synthetic drugs, such as synthetic marijuana and Suboxone, have infiltrated our facilities, creating a violent work environment. Makeshift weapons hidden by prisoners that are used against other inmates and staff. Several lockdowns that have occurred, one as recently as last summer here at Marcy, have turned over 100 weapons in a 72-hour time frame. There's been a significant amount of gang activity and gang violence in our correctional facilities, in our maximum securities and our medium securities. 15 correctional facilities have closed since 2010. Reclassification of inmates from the maximum security standard to the medium standard in our medium facilities contributed to the increase of violence in our prison population. The continued practice of the department to close posts that are vital to maintain the safety and security of our facilities are continually being closed, compromising the safety and security of our facility. This is a very persuasive problem throughout the DOCCS prison system that has seriously put our members at risk and has been effectively addressed. We've addressed it effectively to our administrations at the local levels and at the statewide level. It appears that all we're seeing so far in our communications is lip service with smoke and mirrors with numbers regarding staff. Our staffing numbers are in dire need of improvement. Our facilities are seeing an increase in activity, criminal activity in our facilities without proper prosecution from the outside agencies of the counties where our facilities reside, but additionally from the departmental standpoint, where within our facilities, when an inmate is charged with a certain aspect of a crime or an infraction in the facility, they're commonly met with time cuts, meaning that their discipline has been modified, and it's also a deterrent to the inmate. It's not the deterrent to the inmate to have them act in this manner, basically stating that having an incident happen and having an inmate perpetrate crime inside the facility, the punishment is not met with anything of any dire circumstance. Not that it should be dire, but there should be some proper checks and balances. We don't have that anymore. We have an SHU settlement which the department has settled on, which decreases the time that an inmate serves in our disciplinary system. That also has been compromised. Many of the issues that we're talking about today will be on the road in the future, discussing some of the other issues that we have regarding our staffing levels, a memorandum of understanding that we have had with in the executive budget where we're to receive 275 additional officers throughout the state. We haven't been met with those numbers yet. The time is pushing now. Fiscal year ends March 31st. We have not had one additional staff member added to our facility ranks throughout the state. This time I want to turn it over to Assemblyman Finch, who presides on the Correction Assembly Committee for Corrections, and then we'll entertain some questions.
Thank you, Michael. One of the most dangerous jobs in New York State is to be a correction officer, work in a facility like this one here, all across the state. Several years ago when the state started they call it downsizing, closing these facilities, changing the criteria for inmates and where they can be, whether they're in a high security, low security prison. In order to be able to close these facilities down, they created a situation where there's stress in the facility. Now, it's a dangerous place to work to begin with. Very dangerous. Dangerous for the correction officers, dangerous for the civilian employees, the teachers, and dangerous for the prisoners as well. You cannot confine all these people, all these inmates in a small area and not to expect to have a problem. This was discussed, I debated it on the floor, because these closures were not appropriate, and now we're paying the price for that. This is what's happening. Assaults, COs being injured, civilian employees, prisoners being injured, weapons being brought in, low staffing, not enough personnel. That's what we're facing right now. Well, I'm here to simply say I stand with the correction officers, and we have to do something. This governor has taken it on himself to shut down these facilities under the guise of saving money. But really what's going to happen here eventually, if we don't do something about it now, we're going to be facing insurrections. And those are terrible, terrible situations. We've had several of them in New York State in the past 50, 60 years, and we'll have them again if we don't do anything. So we're here to support you, and we're here to send a message right to the second floor that something must be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Assemblyman. Any questions?
DOCCS did release a response to today's presser, and they said that the governor closed, or the state closed, 7 prisons in 2011, and there were 564, I think, or 563 assaults on staff that year. And the following year, after the closures, they actually went down. So are you saying that's not true?
We're talking about those numbers now. The numbers that we see at the end of this year, at the rate that we're getting them on a weekly basis, we're going to be pushing it about 718 this year alone. The previous years, there's been a slight escalation all the way across. Over a 4-year period, to say that number has decreased is inaccurate.
Did you say at the beginning that they didn't report any for a certain time period? Was it from time period?
We're talking about moderate to serious assaults. Many of our members have suffered concussions, broken bones, lacerations. We've had individuals stabbed. We've had them slashed, and they don't deem any of those serious. Even a small percentage from 2010 to 2015, I believe maybe 6% or 0.6% were deemed moderate. Concussion is a serious injury.
So your issue isn't with that they're not being reported, it's that they're being incorrectly classified?
Yes.
And a way to fix that, you would say, would be more staff in addition to
Well, we need more staff, period. In order for them, we're asking them to accurately portray the assaults they have, the seriousness of them. We're asking them to acknowledge that.
How about the safety issues directly related to the prison closures? Is it because inmates in the remaining prisons and not enough staff? Like the specific day-to-day issues that, with closing the prisons that made you all more upset?
Well, it's a game of numbers. It's a game of smoke and mirrors. Traditionally, 3 short years ago, we were operating at 120% capacity, maximum security inmates. 3 short years later, we're at 100%. what they've done is they've modified a lot of the sentencing structures, a lot of the disciplinary sanctions. They've modified programs to allow individuals to get released earlier. And what you're seeing in your parole offices across the state, and a very significant increase in violent recidivism on the streets with our parolees. You know, that violence is just a trickle down from the maximum security, which they reclassify a certain individual, an inmate. He ends up in a medium setting where it's not as secure. Not to say that it's not secure, but it's not as secure as a maximum security prison. And this individual who has a violent history may end up very well creating a problem here in our facilities. It's promotion of violence is basically as we see it. And we see ourselves as the new targets. Ready?
Your number, the 7-something, that's total assaults that you're projected to reach by the end of the
If
year?
it continues on the trend that it is now, we'll, today we'd be looking at probably about 718.
And that's total.
There's
miles.
close total for the fiscal year, yes, or for the calendar year.
You guys have different facilities across the state. Have you seen any response to your guys' protest?
Yeah, we've had a very good positive response. Along with Mr. Finch here, we've had many members of the state legislature staying with us today. This is our third stop today.
What about talks between you and DOCCS?
We have an open line of communication, but we seem to be met with lip service. We're asking for action. We understand that there are mechanisms in place to help us, to assist us along, but you can't, mechanisms in place to assist, or studies, if you will, don't stop an officer from not walking out of that facility tonight intact. Anybody else? Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate it.